If I'm being honest, I have no idea what to make just yet of the collection of videos we have to cover today. As I was browsing along the YouTube homepage looking for something to check out, I stumbled upon this playlist just labeled CHIMPY's created by Spring Talk, and it reminded me of something from my childhood so frightening, so disturbing,
So terrible!
that I have no idea what the creators of this movie were thinking when they incorporated this design. That damn monkey from Toy Story 3. Now don't get me wrong, Toy Story 3 is an immaculate piece of art, but that monkey had little me questioning my own sanity. The baby in that movie is also horribly frightening, but that monkey straight up attacked my eyeballs and eardrums whenever it presented itself. And that's all I could think about when I saw the design for this chimp in this very bizarre looking collection. I have no idea what to expect with this one, so who knows how well I will be able to get some rest after witnessing these horrors. As always, be sure to check out the original series before coming on over here for us to witness the nightmare as a group. So without further ado, let's see just how horrifying this Chimpy Chippa is going to get. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. And if you want to see more, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Letterboxd. Alright, now you can pass through. Chimpy Chippa's Banned Commercial. Tape 1. A creepy, vintage commercial for an old restaurant, Chimpy Chippa's, was banned from airing on television due to its disturbing visuals scaring children. The animatronic puppet Chimpy Chippa was scrapped and placed into storage. All copies of the commercial were destroyed in the 80s. However, the video anonymously surfaced on the internet many years later. As it turns out, this tape isn't just a straight-up commercial, but more of a behind-the-scenes look at the voiceover work being done for it. Everything begins as usual, but when that chimp comes on screen, it sort of throws off our narrator, and he has to restart.
Coming back for more. Are you as excited as Chipper the Chip is to, eat all of... Sorry. Bloody monkey, we're gonna do it again. Just give me another go, from the top.
We go on to take 2, and our narrator is sure he's got it. But before we get very far in this take, the commercial has a bit of a glitch. The sky turns black above this restaurant, and we are shown some frightening text. I'm so hungry, trapped here for so long, starving. I see you watching this. I'm hungry. I don't know if I even want to know the implications behind that. But our commercial returns back as normal, and it sounds like this take may be the one. Yet once that damn chimp returns, our narrator starts to fumble again. He goes off on how creepy it looks, and I'm right there with him.
I know you guys spent time on making this monkey thing, but has no one realized how fucking creepy it looks?
However, his rant gets cut off and something seems very off with our chimp machine. His eyes quickly turn green and start to dilate, and I hate looking at it. It then looks like we are brought to the POV of someone accessing the commercial file, and it looks like this chimp is acting as some sort of virus. His eyes appear burned to the screen before flashing towards us with text that quickly says, "Hungry, die, hungry. I see you paused this. Uh-oh. And finally, I'm coming."
What the snap?
It's clear as day that this chimp has some sort of sentience, and considering the puppet has been thrown into storage, the life it's living probably sucks pretty bad. I have a feeling this chimp puppet isn't too happy about his current situation, and is attempting to communicate to anyone who stumbles upon its existence to perhaps free it? Or it could be an evil puppet and its intentions are a lot more sinister than I imagined. Chimpy Chippa's Storage Breach. Tape 2. Chimpy Chippa was decommissioned and placed into storage at Will Bill's warehouse after his commercial was banned in early 1984. However, on October 11th, 1984, security footage captured the horror which unfolded that night. A disturbing incident of an alleged thief went missing while attempting to break into the warehouse. They were never found. The tape begins and we can see we will be taking a peek at this security footage. We learn that the alleged perpetrator went missing very quickly in the span of only 24 seconds, and that this footage may help in figuring out what happened. The footage opens up and we are immediately met with this damn chimp, and we can hear footsteps wandering around outside, before the window shatters and the alarm goes off. However, it's here we see how the thief didn't last very long, and that our chimp may be way more dangerous than we expected. After all that, we return to our chimp facing the direction he was previously. However, we get more text that appears in the top left corner. And I'm not sure just yet whether or not this is the chimp talking, or perhaps the now missing thief. Where am I? How can I be talking? It got me. Am I dead? I can't see. Empty thoughts. Can someone hear me? The screen then cuts to black, and a skull begins to slowly fade into view, before text that says, "Help me," very briefly flashes on screen. See, the only reason I think it could be the thief in this text is the phrase, "It got me," and "Am I dead?" It's possible this is the thief in some strange state talking about how the chimp had got him, and questioning if he is now dead. But it's also likely this is still the chimp talking and questioning its own existence. I gotta say, so far this has been a really impressive first 2 tapes. Little did I know that the creator actually built this animatronic chimp. This isn't movie magic, folks. That haunting creation is real, and boy, is it scary to look at. Chimpy Chippa's Disturbing 911 Calls. Tape 3. Police received a disturbing 911 call from Chimpy Chippa's on the 7th of January, 1984. A scary incident inside the restaurant would lead to a tragedy that would change the company forever. On the 11th of October, 1984, police received a 911 call following the break-in at Will Bill's warehouse. Our tape begins, and we get to listen in on our first 911 call. According to the caller, a crazed woman is inside the restaurant with a gun, shouting a bunch of curses against God, and something about taking away her God-given gift. Sounds like quite the sane lady we're dealing with. But dangers get higher as she begins to point the gun at everyone in the building, even all the children. Our caller is introduced as Rose, one of the managers of the restaurant, who is managing to stay hidden behind one of the counters from the crazy lady. The next thing Rose says, however, is very telling to the forces we may be dealing with.
You're great, Rose. Just stay with me, okay? What's wrong with her eyes? They're bright green, glowing.
The lady's eyes are glowing green. Sounds exactly like those glowing green eyes our dear chimp had in that first tape. After that, however, our 911 call has quite the grisly ending.
She's putting the gun in her mouth. She's putting the gun in her mouth. Oh my God.
The door in the background begins to open up, and shockingly, we see a sonogram being displayed from inside, before text quickly shoots on screen that says, "I didn't mean it. I had no control. It wants your space, but it can only live where there's negative energy. Don't let it take anyone else. The more death it brings, the more others like it can come." This is leading me to more strongly believe that the text we saw near the end of the last tape was indeed the thief, as I am almost 99% sure that the text we just read came from the lady who had shot herself, talking about how she didn't mean it and had no control. Given the fact her eyes were green, I have a feeling she was possessed of some sorts by whatever entity is residing in our chimp. I guess our chimp is a full-fledged villain. We're then flashed a handful of newspaper clippings. Woman suicides in Chimpy Chippa's. Tragedy befalls newly opened restaurant. Chimpy Chippa's closes after tragic incident. Woman took her life. Revealed to be pregnant. Creepy commercial banned. Chimpy Chippa's struggles to reopen after flawed mascot design scares viewers. Staff and customers who witnessed the tragedy described the woman's behavior as animalistic. They explained she was cursing satanic things against God, and described her eyes as unusually bright green. Sounds like we definitely have a possession on our hands. Now we're on to our second 911 call received many months later, the night of the warehouse break-in. This call is a bit more out there, to say the least.
Was that just the emergency?
Not great. Not great. Not great. Not great.
After that bizarre encounter, a police officer is sent to investigate the origin of the call. We see as the officer arrives at the scene. And something I like here is that visually, we immediately are led to believe those 2 green lights are the chimp's eyes, but it turns out to just be a piece of machinery of some sorts. But the chimp is still in that direction, just a little bit smaller. The eyes glow white this time as the chimp starts getting closer and closer to the officer. The officer tries to shoot the chimp, but it doesn't seem to be of any success. Turns out this animatronic is shockingly bulletproof. It's unclear if it was the chimp who made the 911 call to lure out the officer, or if somehow, someway, our thief was the one who called for help. Nonetheless, it's apparent this chimp has some supernatural abilities outside of our comprehension. Chimpy Chippa's News Broadcast Interruption. Tape 4. A live news report following the recent incident at Will Bill's warehouse was interrupted by unusual footage of Chimpy Chippa. The broadcast interruption was witnessed by thousands of viewers. The news station apologized and worked swiftly to investigate the cause behind the interruption. Our tape shockingly begins literally right where our last one left off, with our chimp racing towards our officer as bullets go flying. However, saying this tape took a turn I was not expecting is certainly an understatement. We cut to very impressive live-action footage, and it looks like our officer was able to halt the chimp in its tracks by getting a shot at the eye. We then cut to see the chimp dumped at a dump, to which our news report begins, talking about the police investigation on the murder of the thief, now known as Sylvester Rigby. In a shocking revelation, his wife is Miranda Rigby. And who is she?
Who?
Miranda is the lady who shot herself at the restaurant after holding the customers hostage. Our police officer, now known as Sean Yates, was the one who managed to disable the animatronic by shooting it in the eye, or so we are led to believe. It stated that when the detectives attempted to review the CCTV footage, it was all corrupted, kind of like our news report, which glitches out and we see the chimp in center frame, looking around what is more than likely the restaurant, in quite the tense scene. It's clear that this moment was Miranda's suicide. Text appears just saying so many watching, so very hungry. When this chimp says it's hungry, does it mean hungry for souls? The news report comes back, and we learn that the restaurant was only open for 3 months before the shooting occurred. But in March, the owners allowed a sitcom to be filmed on location as an attempt to revive the lost finances. However, the sitcom got canceled due to the footage being corrupted or completely lost. And on the date of October 12, 1984, the owners announced that Chimpy Chippa's is being closed permanently. And that's how the tape ends. It's crazy how good the live-action segment looked, almost straight out of a film. It has been a while since I've seen an analog horror break format and go into a cinematic style to that level. It caught me incredibly off guard, but it certainly raised my level of investment in the rest of the series. It sounds like the restaurant opened up late in 1983, but quickly got halted due to Miranda's hostage situation where she was somehow possessed by this entity that seems to reside in the chimp animatronic. Perhaps in search of this evil puppet, her husband goes to the warehouse to get some answers, but is also ultimately killed by the chimp. Chimpy Chippa's Lost Sitcom, Tape 5. A canceled sitcom called Monkey Business was filmed inside Chimpy Chippa's to help the restaurant owners recoup some financial loss from the January tragedy. However, most footage was corrupted midway through production, apart from one scene. Our tape begins and we are brought to a very lighthearted opening in the style of those good old 80s and 90s sitcoms, and it looks like Chimpy has a brand new design. Still unnerving, but a little less frightening. Our episode begins and our two characters are sitting at a table talking about what to order. I've said this before, and it's not to diss on creators' attempts at branching outside of the medium, but there are times when live-action moments in analog horrors can kind of take me out of the scares. But this here is so well made that it's doing the opposite. The acting and design is straight out of an old sitcom. The quality is just so apparent here. Even the set looks straight out of the images we have seen of Chimpy Chippa's restaurant. And I'd be lying if I said once the waitress gets introduced, that I wasn't getting a few good laughs.
Are you ready to order, or should I report this as a hostage situation?
However, it quickly gets interrupted and my laughs turn to fear after the lady says shoot me now and our whole footage takes a turn.
Oh my gosh, shoot me now!
In a quick flash, we can see the waitress and our male character dead at the booth, with text in the window that says, "Please help. It's Miranda." The text quickly shifts over to "Don't let them take Sylvester." I'm sorry to report, Miranda, but Sylvester has the same fate. However, after that segment ends, our male is back to life, and our lady has those very same glowing green eyes. It almost seems like he is still trying to play out the scene, but all she does is stare into his soul. She then decks him across the face, and our laugh track gets a little more demonic. I also hate to admit how freaked out I got when her head jump cuts to then staring directly into my soul. Text then appears just saying, "We are many now. Our hunger is never satisfied. Give yourself to us. This is our space." She then slowly smiles as the credits begin to roll and our tape ends. I have been loving the series so far. The shifts in format has been a delight to see, and it just keeps bringing me more into this universe. It's more apparent than ever just how capable this entity is, being able to take over footage and completely corrupt it. I have a feeling the cast member didn't actually die here, but the footage was just altered to completely change how the scene looks on tape. This chimp entity seems to want nothing more than to keep feeding on people's souls. It did say that this demonic presence feeds on negative energy. If we look back to the very first tape, the eyes begin to glow after our narrator starts his rant at how creepy the animatronic is. They also begin to glow on our lady here after her frustrations with how long it's taking to order. If I was in this situation, I'd probably just take my food to go. CHIMPY's Disturbing Exorcism, Tape 6. A scary recording documents a horrifying exorcism which unfolded inside CHIMPY's restaurant the night it burned down on New Year's Eve, 1984. Our tape begins and we see the restaurant engulfed in flames. We learn that this recording we are about to see was recovered after the incident, and what we see is quite disturbing to say the least. We can hear as a lady is crying out, talking about how there's no other way, and that this ends tonight, before they take over. I have a feeling what we're looking at here is the burnt corpse of the lady's voice we are hearing. She screams out as she basically gets burned alive, and in quite the soul-stealing scene, the burnt head turns towards the camera as more text begins to appear. I thought this exorcism would work. It attached itself to me at the shooting. It's so strong now, this was the only way. To protect my daughter. Remember me, Rose. A little green light then leaves the corpse's eye, and our screen cuts to black. To end off this tape, we see as the chimp's remaining eye glows green yet again, and is able to make its way back to the burning restaurant. A bunch more of those green lights come from the fire and inside the chimp's eye, before our tape comes to a close. If we recall, Rose was the manager of the establishment who called 911 while Miranda was waving the gun around like a maniac. If I had to guess, whatever demon/entity was residing inside Miranda managed to make its way to Rose after she shot herself. Given the date being December 31st of 1984, Rose had been possessed with this thing for quite a while, and in the end attempted to set herself ablaze as an attempt to exorcise the demon, but to no avail. Now all those green lights appear to be the personification of this entity, or entities as in the end they all return to the chimp animatronic. Once again, the visuals have just been absolutely stellar as the series goes on, but on that note, we have one final tape before CHIPPA'S comes to a close. CHIPPA'S The Finale, Tape 7. On New Year's Eve 1984, police received a call in response to a domestic disturbance. The caller stated he was followed home and attacked after recording CHIPPA'S restaurant on fire. To start off this final tape, we are brought to Miranda's journal, 2 days before the shooting. We see inside excerpts where she has just written, "There is so much death in this world. When the baby grows, so will I, strong enough to control this body and kill it, to release myself and feast with the others." We're then brought back to the burning restaurant, and we cut back to see our character filming the incident. But we see in the sky that green light flying away, likely the soul/spirit of Rose. Our character then runs off and makes their way back home. This is when the police receive the phone call of the disturbance, and our familiar officer Sean Yates is sent to the scene. Time for his rematch. You can hear as it sounds like the chimp walking among the house with our cameraman, but Officer Sean arrives and makes his way inside. We occasionally cut between camera footage and our more cinematic angles as our officer investigates the house. He turns and ends up getting attacked by Chimpy, but we see as another green light heads into the home and makes its way into Chimpy's eyes. We then get quite the revelation.
this space. This world is not yours. All I want is one safe for my daughter, protected from false spirits.
From what I can gather, that green light was once again Rose's spirit fighting back against the chimp, whose animatronic body holds a bunch of these so-called false spirits, aka our evil entities. We also learn that these spirits can transfer through visual contact, which explains quite a lot. But then Rose bursts the other eye of the animatronic and puts an end to this nightmare. We're then brought to a police interview between our cameraman, now introduced as Brady Whitlock, and a detective. Brady explains that he had been following the Chimpy CHIPPA'S story since the January shooting. Our detective informs us that the chimp animatronic hasn't been destroyed yet, but taken in to be studied so that if this happens again, they can be prepared. We're then brought to our shocking conclusion. We return to the first tape, where our computer user found the leaked commercial we saw in the very beginning. This ties everything back neatly in a full circle, showing us that the evil spirits inside the chimp have returned through the screen to begin this haunting scenario all over again. So from the way this sounds, Chimpy CHIPPA'S opens its doors around October of 1983 and manages to have a peaceful 3-month run. But Miranda, who has been possessed by this evil false spirit alongside her baby, since remember it said as the baby grows, so does the demon, giving it more control over Miranda's body, heads into the restaurant holding the entire building hostage before ultimately ending her own life. Now the real question is if the chimp was already also possessed at this point and pulling all the strings, or if Miranda was the first to be possessed and ended up passing the entity onto the animatronic and also Rose. Anyways, after that point, Sylvester then gets killed by the chimp, and it sounds like his soul was stuck inside the animatronic as well, given the text we got with him. So this chimp was acting as some sort of vessel harboring all of these souls within, both the souls of the victims and the evil spirits threatening to do harm. But given Rose's sacrifice, she was able to disrupt the evil by taking over the vessel herself and blowing out the remaining eye, leaving the chimp to be unable to disperse any more spirits and possess anyone else. I know I've said this word a lot, but this series was shocking to say the least. At first glance, I honestly thought this would be just your typical run-of-the-mill analog horror, but this is now truly a top contender for some of the best works I've seen in this genre. The story that is ever evolving, the style that consistently shifted into new heights, hell, even the scares were really effective. The quality was just all there. The fact that the animatronic was real and functional for the series is just astonishing to hear. We were brought to actual sets, and were presented with a downright film at the end of the day. From what I hear, there was also a horror game that was based off this character too, taking place after the ending and following our character who downloaded the corrupted commercial. However, I don't think it's actually canon. The fact that this story was able to wrap up everything is also a feat on its own, leaving almost nothing to still have questions about, which is certainly rare to find in analog horror these days. If you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out this series as it deserves all the credit. I had no idea when starting this series that I was going to love it as much as I did. But on that note, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I thank you all for watching. Be sure to keep leaving me some recommendations down below, whether it be in the comments or the community Discord where I'm always lurking around from the sky. But if you'll excuse me, my favorite sitcom Monkey Business is about to air, and I can't miss it.